Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know if you can hear me okay. If you can hear me, just type yes in the chat and we'll get this conversation started. Please type yes in the chat if you can hear me. Yeah, they're gonna have to go in the crate. They're doing too much. Hmm. Yes. No, he'll be fine. All right, so I have two dogs and they are very rambunctious when they're not in the crate. Um, I don't want to hear growling the whole time I'm trying to talk to you on this live, so they have to be put away. But anyway, okay, so I was watching the boardwalk today. Can you guys hear me? Okay, can you type yes in the chat if you can hear me, please? I need to make sure that I'm heard. Yes. All right, Dr. Keisha, thank you. Thank you. And if you're in here, please make sure you like and share. And let's we want to get as many people engaged as many people as we can engaged in our conversation. All right. All right. So listen, I was watching the Bulwark on today, and they were having a conversation about um, what Democrats may have gotten wrong in this election. And one of the things that kept coming up was, and this was a focus group. They did a focus group with people who voted for Obama, Biden, and Harris. I'm sorry, Biden, Clinton, and Harris, or Clinton, Biden, Harris. So they voted Democrat the last three elections, essentially. And they asked these people, what do they think went wrong? And it was a consensus that Democrats may have gone too far left. And too far left meaning not that, so these social issues, gender identity, things like that are not important, but that it was it was made to look like that's all they cared about. And now those of us that are on this side of the aisle who, you know, uh, welcome diversity and inclusion and things like that, uh, we know that the Democrats weren't, they were more moderate in a lot of instances. And even Kamala Harris, when she ran, she did moderate herself in a lot of ways. But there were indeed, there was a perception, though. There was a perception that Democrats cared more about those sorts of issues than they cared about the price of eggs or toilet paper or things like that. So the question tonight is that something, is that the case? Did Democrats go too far left, or did they just lose a culture war? And what I mean by that separate question is, like I said, those of us on the inside, we know that Democrats in and of themselves were not pushing an extreme agenda on any type of left-leaning social issue. Not this election. They weren't. They were trying to focus on the economy. They focused on infrastructure. They tried to address the concerns of people who said they cared about America exceptionalism, America first, things like that. So they tried to emphasize those things with the infrastructure bill and things of that nature, reducing the cost of insulin, things like that, and try to create an environment where communicate that, hey, we do care about these issues and we do hear your concerns, things like that. But that is not That is not the message that was received received by the people that voted the other way. Now, I will tell you, I'm not one to claim that, there are a lot of people who feel like this election was lost because, people didn't want a black lady to be president. That is a narrative. Now, I am more, this is nuance. This is a nuanced space. I don't hold that belief wholeheartedly. Do I think that might have been a factor? Absolutely. There are people who just don't want to see a black lady in charge. So, of course, that has something to do with it. So, racism may have played a part. Sexism did play a part. Um, you know, um, Even you can talk about patriarchy. It played a part. Absolutely, those things played a part. But there are legitimate concerns among the electorate about whose needs and what issues are being prioritized, and of those issues, how do those issues impact me? And if they're impacting me in a negative way, what are you going to do about it? And that message, the Republicans did a good job of communicating. I have some people in queue. I want to let you up. So we definitely want to get into that. If you are, please jump back. There was a couple people waiting, but yes, definitely jump back in. I definitely want to hear from you to hear your thoughts on this conversation. So I believe that it's both and. There, there definitely could have been a better job in communicating and messaging. But the Republicans have definitely mastered messaging. The ad about Kamala Harris saying that, she was for transgender surgeries for prison inmates. That was a question she was asked. And she basically was like, yes, in a sense. They ran that ad. They spent several $100 million running that ad in a lot of red states and even in Democratic areas. Donald Trump won New York, the state of New York. He lost, obviously. Democrats won, but he won. He collected more percentage of the vote, a higher percentage of the vote than Kamala Harris collected in Texas and Florida. So that means there were more New Yorkers that were convinced or swayed by the message that they were receiving from that side than there were Republicans or in New York and other places that were persuaded by the Democrat message, right? You got to look at that kind of stuff. So I think it behooves those that care about democracy, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or independent, to really look at that data and figure out how to address it. Because obviously, there were some marks missed. Because you can't tell me that it's normal for people to be voting for AOC and Donald Trump on the same ballot. There's something's that should tell us something. And if we're going to, in any way, put up any type of resistance, find a way forward so we can elect people who can not go along with, this overreach that we're witnessing, you're gonna have to come back down to earth and talk to people where they are. If you can't talk to people where they are, you're never going to win again. This may be all lost for good. So, what are your thoughts? I definitely want to hear from you. Someone said Obama gave Tom Homan an award for deporting illegal invaders. You sound like a Republican, very smart person. Just wasteful spending could be used here at home and is going to be okay. Someone said the right would have voted for Candace Owens. You are so smart. I wish Democrats would be as smart as you. Thank you, Jerry Sharp. Listen, I'm just a thinker. I've come, like I said, I told people last night. I have a unique experience. I grew up in a small town where the whites and the blacks were poor. We all were getting free lunch, so there was no class. That wasn't something I was conscious of. Race wasn't prioritized that way in that small town. I went to church with black and white people. I had black and white teachers. I grew up in Hurlock, Maryland. We barely got like 2,500 people down there, and my understanding of how people think that are in those spaces is a little different. And I think sometimes when we move, I live in Philadelphia now. I went to college, got educated, and things like that. Got exposed to a lot of different ideas. I had, my faith was challenged, and I had to evolve. And I've evolved in areas in that on that regard. But it made me become I believe, a well-rounded person who doesn't necessarily enjoy being in an echo chamber, because it's true when you are able to, afford internet, high-speed internet, and you can afford, and the things that you are concerned about financially aren't so much whether or not you can eat, but it's whether or not you're able to take a vacation. Those are two different types of issues. If the thing I'm worried about in my life is whether or not I can go on vacation this year, I am living a pretty decent life. Even if the price of eggs are high, I'm doing pretty good, if that's my concern for the year. But there are a lot of Americans, majority of them, who $6 eggs were the difference between eating and paying their light bill. And Democrats did not do a good job of talking to those people. They didn't. Because you can't get on stage and say, well, the economy is zooming and we're number one compared to Europe and woo 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 woo. These people they're not connected to economics like that. They're not connected to what the damn stock market is doing. They don't give a damn about how well a tech company did in its first quarter earnings. They're trying to figure out, do I have enough money to put gas in my car so I can make it to this job that I hate? It's a completely different vibe. You know why DEI doesn't matter to them? Because in my small town, we were diverse already. I had black teachers. I went to church with white people. I had the person who hired me, the manager at the Hyatt Regency in Cambridge, Maryland, was a black woman who was the head of human resources and hiring. This was back in 2000 and not 2002. What I want to say 2004, 2004, 2005. There was not this polarization about race and police brutality and that was not happening in my small town. It wasn't. So when Trayvon Martin happened, I was confused. I was like, he must have did something bad in order for him to get shot by a police officer. He had to have, because that wasn't my experience. So, but when you get exposed to these different ideas these different forms of activism and things like that for these types of issues, those things become more apparent to you. The more educated you become, the more money you make, and the more these issues are put in front of you. In a lot of ways, it's purity test to see where your politics are before we can decide if we can be friends or not. That's what happens in cities, which become progressive bastions of thought. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that if you're aware that that is a privilege. That is a privilege. To be able to, and again, I love all the things, right? Call yourself what you want. Pronouns, all the things, use them. Let me know what they are. If I don't want to say them, I'll call you by your name. Democrats are scared to say that. But when you grow up when you're in these bastions of educated thought, because they have data and they have all the things and they have people who are able to show up and present themselves in certain ways. One thing I noticed too, the companies that had pronouns in their email signatures were companies where people were high earners. Companies like mine that I work for. That was not happening at Allen Foods on the chicken line, where people are pulling guts out of chickens so our asses can eat them and complain about the price in Aldi or Whole Foods. That's a different kind of vibe, bro. Those people could care less. If you are non-binary in small towns like that, no one gives a shit. They will call you a tomboy. Sarah has been a tomboy since I known her, and nobody gives a fuck because that's Sarah. Sarah likes to dress masculine. Okay, and we gonna still invite her to the barbecue, and she still go to my church, and we all know who she is, and she knows who she, and that's not a big deal. But somehow these became big deals where it had to be something that everybody, we went from the gay community used to say that we didn't like labels. We hated labels. I just want to be myself. I don't need labels. Put me in boxes, don't box me in. But now we can't, we're in a space where you can't exist without a label. I'm just Francois. I happen to be in a relationship with a man. But I am Francois. I still protect women. And not protect because of patriarchy, but that's just how I was raised. I open doors for women. I hold umbrellas for women. I pay for their meals when we go out to dinner if they come out to dinner with me. That's just how I was raised. That's how men should do things. That's how men should behave towards women. And if I say that, instead of it being read as, oh, he's a gentleman, the far left will say, oh, you are a victim of the patriarchy. I don't need your help. I can open my own goddamn doors. You will open my doors for. I don't need you to do that for me. What makes you think I can't pay for my own dinner? What? I didn't say that. I never said that. That's just what I was raised to do when it comes to how men and women relate. And it has nothing to do with being gay or straight or in between. I'm still a man. And I still have to govern myself in a way that gives deference to women. That's how I was raised. That shouldn't, but if you say that in certain spaces, it sounds like you're being a certain kind of way that doesn't align with their new politics. That's problematic, folks. Small towns ain't worried about stuff like that. They got bigger fish to fry. They don't have time to worry about what their email signature says because they're trying to make sure that they can make it to the next day because they're working double shifts and they have family members watching their kids. It's a different way of life for majority of Americans. And sometimes those of us who have started making income that is above the poverty line, and we moved into the middle class, and we're around our friends and family who all have homes and 2 cars and, shop at Whole Foods and have gym membership that costs $100 a month. Because God forbid we go to Planet Fitness. Well, I don't want to be down there with those fat people who don't want to really work out. You become elite and don't even realize it. You done moved into the elites. You became the Joneses and you didn't even realize it. You woke up and you woke up as a Jones and you didn't even realize it. So how do we talk to everybody else? 54% of Americans, I'm going to stop talking and let you and bring you guys on, but 54% of Americans according to a research poll, I believe it was a Pew Research poll, showed that, or Gallup, it might have been Gallup, or no. Matter of fact, let me cite that correctly. 54% of Americans, 54% of Americans have an education that is sixth grade or below. Keisha said, bye. Keisha, I'm serious. Dr. Keisha, you know I'm telling the truth. You know when we start making a little money, we don't want to go to Planet Fitness no more. I don't want to be in there with y'all. Why y'all give me pizza? I'm trying to lose weight. Because all my friends that make money too are fit. They go jogging and they jog with their strollers and things like that. I want to jog with my stroller. Shoot. And I live next to Karen. We live in the same neighborhood. Once you start living next to Karen, you're doing pretty good. Karen come outside and she got the stroller. I see Karen's husband. He got the baby on his chest and they running down the street. And this is a gentrified neighborhood. People still get shot over here. But these white folk that came in here and this is, honey, you would think you was living in east on the Upper East Side in this damn brewery town. I'm telling you, it's gentrified. I'm living with the Joneses, and the Joneses is living by me. And you forget that you've done moved into the elite class. No, we're not rich. We are working middle class. We still are living paycheck to paycheck, but our money doing something different than the people in Appalachia. No shade, but it's the truth. And when you get to that space in your existence or in your finances, yeah, it's harder for you. Yes, you know, the money don't go as far, but your money is still doing something else. You're canceling trips. You might just stop going to a brunch. Maybe I'm not going to brunch. I'm cutting back by not going to brunch, and maybe I'll cancel a few subscriptions. And you know what? Maybe I'll go back to Planet Fitness because I'm cutting back. But you still have access to all these things. You get to choose which gym you want to go to, not whether or not you can make equipment. When I was growing up in a small town, we had no Planet Fitness. We was using cinder blocks as weights. That's what we was doing, cinder blocks. And you couldn't tell me what? You went in your neighbor's backyard and they had a makeshift bench with a damn broom or a pole with two cinder blocks on the side. What? When I was growing up, the black people and the white people were eating white rice and corned beef hash. That was a meal. You could, I can't, ask me the last time I seen corned beef hash in my kitchen. Let's keep it real. I live in both projects and the burbs. I still will never forget I am black and at risk in America, KKK. Well, always, that ain't changing. You're right, because the other night those stimulus checks were being talked about. Yes. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's definitely something that I feel that a lot of Democrats have forgotten about, including myself as an independent. I had to sit down and think about what in the world, you know, I had to look back at my life and look at, you know, the personal successes I've made, and then realize that we're cool. So if Kamala Harris and the Democrats are talking to us, absolutely, the economy is booming, the 401ks are doing great, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't get any, and I looked up the statistics of who were getting them. Well, now see, listen. So look, this is the National Literacy Institute, and they did a report, and they say that there are 54% of adults. This is national. This is not fake news. We only do facts over here. I'll tell you when if the Trump administration do something right, I'll give them credit. When they're doing something to bamboozle us, I'm gonna call it out. I don't give a damn. When the Bidens fuck up, I'm gonna call them out too. Kamala Harris, if she says something I don't like, I'm a scream just as loud. Trust me. Okay. Now look, This is what it says. The National Literacy Institute says that 54% of adults in America have literacy below a sixth grade level. Below, let me say that out. Let me say that one more time. I want y'all to process this because I'm going to say it slow. 54%, 54%, 54% of Americans have a literacy level, that means reading and writing and comprehension, below a sixth grade level. Now, last I checked, 54% is a majority. Is a majority. So when we over here in our middle class neighborhoods, those of us who are, which a lot of us are, especially on these social media sites, because you got to be able to afford the internet and your iPhone to be able to get on here and look at TikTok. So you got to have a couple of dollars somewhere. Amen. So when we over here have these arguments about pronouns and transitions and all these different things and safe spaces and we got our schools have and if you live in a good neighborhood, my stepson goes to a school where they have escape rooms for people who have ADHD and anxiety. There was no escape rooms in Hurlock, Maryland. You went to the guidance counselor. And she was available. She talked to you. And if you had a problem that they couldn't solve, they call your parents. Or if you feeling like you were stressed out, you took a nap on a little table in the guidance counselor office. They let you take a little nap, go on and cool off, but you need to get back in class. Okay? But now there are escape rooms for people who, if my stepson gets the wee bit flustered, he can say, "Oh, I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed, woe is me." And then he can go into the escape room. Because he goes to a school in an upper middle class neighborhood where the property taxes are high, where they can afford to do all these sorts of things. That's not the majority of America, folks. That's not the majority. When y'all be laughing at these Trump supporters because they look like hillbillies, the Beverly Hillbillies with MAGA hats, when y'all laughing at them, that's the majority of the country that you're laughing at. And it don't see, I'm tripping too. When you tell me New York City got these 2 million people, all these hundreds, these millions of people that live there in New York City, that still doesn't account for the fact that the United States has over 300 million citizens, the majority of which live in small towns. So manufacturing jobs going away, that changes a whole generation. Because now, little Billy can't grow up and work at the GM plant and be guaranteed to make $60,000 a year so he can buy a house. That's $250,000. And that $250,000 house in that small town ain't no little house. In that small town, $250,000, you getting you 2,500 square feet with a basement and a 2-car garage. You're doing well for yourself. On a $60,000, on a two household, if your household income is $60,000 to $100,000 for two people, you're doing pretty good. But then when the job goes away, these are all we forget. Detroit literally got demolished after the recession, and they're still trying to recover. A lot of people did not recover. And these are the people that Trump was able to talk to. And so when they spend millions of dollars on an ad that says that she cares about they, them, and not you, that's effective. That's effective. That's really, really effective. Monica Living's testimony said, yes, however, all rooms don't have the privilege. Some have a table dedicated as a safe space. Well, right, that's true. They do have tables, stuff like that. But the thing is, though, that idea, I'm speaking about the philosophies and the psychology and the studies and the research that go into how we handle mental health. But those expanded ideas about mental health and how to handle children and enrich their development, That normally only trickles down to schools that can afford it, is what I'm saying. These small town schools, they don't have the resources for those types of programs. So your children are coming out differently. Children who grow up in metro areas tend to be more progressive than children who don't. And that's just because of the exposure, what you're exposed to, the people you're exposed to. And that's whether you're a Christian or not. If you're a Christian in Biloxi, Mississippi, you're going to have a different type of Christianity and a different type of feeling about your faith than a Christian in East Manhattan. The Christian that go to the Catholic Church in Biloxi, they don't like women priests. They don't like the gays. They don't want none of it. But Nancy Pelosi in California is allowed to be Catholic and progressive because she's around gay people. She's around these types of things. She has exposure to these ideas because of her education and her Congress. She makes millions of dollars. She knows how to beat the stock market. She do all the things. So she can be a Catholic light and still claim it. So the point I'm making is the way your environment affects your perspective on how the world works. So when you have people in high office, like the Democrats, continuing to only talk to people in cities who have exposure, knowledge, and education, and this is not, and again, this is not about saying that these people are uneducated. I'm telling you what the studies show. Francois didn't say it. The institution, the national literacy people said that. I didn't say that. Okay? So, sound off. I want to hear what you think. My children's schools have sensory rooms. That's what they call them, sensory rooms. Thank you. That's what it's called, a sensory room. Thank you so much. That's exactly what it's called. I was this firsthand on a regular basis with my colleagues. Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to talk to you guys on the air. Anybody brave enough to come up and sound off and tell me your thoughts? I've said a lot. That's going to be the case. When you come over here, I'm going to spend probably the first, 20, 30 minutes talking, just sounding off, musing my thoughts and little late night musings. My brain be racing. I be thinking about all these things at once. And then when I finally get my thoughts together, I'm like, I need to go talk to these people and tell them what I've done discovered and what I'm thinking and see how they feel about it. So I want to know how y'all feel. Did we go too far? The Democrats, were they tone deaf? Or were they just on the wrong side are they just on the wrong side of the culture war? Because it don't matter how progressive the Democrats want to be, or those of us who consider ourselves to be progressives. It don't matter how progressive we want to be and whose rights we want to protect and be activists for. We still got to have a country that supports it. And you still got to be able to have people get to a space where they can elect these officials to drive this change forward. And one thing I was having this conversation about, gay rights and how that became, how that got, it seemed like it, moved pretty quickly. So once we got to gay marriage, things kind of plateaued after that. But one of the big differences is that when it comes to gay rights, it took a long time to get to gay marriage. A long time, right? Gay marriage was just approved in 2015, y'all. That was just 10 years ago. So for some people, they still trying to process the fact that two men can get married and they see them on TV. Now, I'm not saying that progress should wait for people who refuse to change. Absolutely not. But my thing is, with the majority of the country being where they are, and with progress happening as fast as it's happening, progress is happening very quickly. And progress is a good thing. But how do you keep people engaged in the progress? Informed, educated, exposed to the things that are changing when things are progressing, so that way they can see it as a benefit to society or an expansion of society and not an affront to their personal liberties in pursuit of their own individual happiness and things like that. How do you do that? Republicans seem to have figured it out, and that's why we have a wannabe monarch and his unelected prime minister in the White House, the people's house. It was many different factors that played a part in their failure to secure the election. Okay, let's talk about it. Tell me the factors. Would you like to come up and talk about it? User 236 number. Just hit the guest button and I'll have you on. I would love to have this conversation. The Republicans didn't help though. They just lied to them. They did lie. A lot of what the Republicans said is absolute lies. Lies and garbage. But it was effective. And that's what we gotta accept that. It was effective. Whether it was lies or not, they were effective lies. They were effective alternative. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right, bet. Thank you. Sorry about that. You gotta charge my mics. Okay. So scenario. If we witnessed this in a crowd, a heckler. You had a comedy show, a heckler says something crazy to disrupt the show. Are you going to give that heckler space to talk and disrupt the show because it's the nice thing to do? Or are you going to say, will you shut the hell up because I'm up doing my damn show? Damn. Ain't nobody hire you. Shut your ass up. And a lot of people's perspective, to a lot of people, Donald Trump was a just shut the hell up. And Democrats were the, well, you're entitled to your perspective. Yeah, sure. We'll create space for you to vent. That's crazy. Why are we doing that? And that's how it's perceived on the other side. So Trump seemed like he was a normal person who could get pissed off, who can call you names if you call him names, and can switch on you just like you do, just like all of us do in our friend circles. If somebody start talking, you find out one of your. I'm gonna just go without that. Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me now? We're gonna just do the regular microphone. Okay, bet. Thank you, Dr. Keisha. All right, we're gonna do regular without the microphone. I'm gonna have to get a better quality mic. But if this keeps growing, praise the Lord. Y'all can donate and I can buy a nice microphone. Ain't that nice? It's like, no. I'm gonna get another mic though. These mics ain't that bad. Actually, they for the price. They were like $26 or some shit on the TikTok shop. That's not that bad. They're pretty good. They just die fast. So anyway, with that in mind, it's something that you have to really consider. He was clever about it. He was more effective, and Democrats just weren't. No matter how much we say they had the right messaging and all that, it just wasn't effective. I know people want to blame. Some people were talking about some election fraud might have happened. I'm not on board with that 100%. Because it seems to me, if there was election fraud on the side of Republicans, it still wouldn't change the outcome. Because Pennsylvania voted for Republicans. Bucks County, a Philadelphia suburb. So, yeah, the messaging didn't work, period. If I'm at BM and I'm promised the oppression of LM, and I hear the LM being promised to, wait, say it again? You have to know at minimum one of getting played. No one saw this coming. We are in the twilight zone. You're right. No one did saw it coming. Yo, do you want to get up here? Why you don't get up here and talk? My kinfolk is in the audience, and we were having this conversation earlier today, talking about some of this. And you know, you don't have to get on camera, but just if you share your voice. Here we are. What's up?
Yeah, so we talked about this earlier. And, I think one part of it is that most people felt like this would just be another bad presidency at worst. You get what I'm saying? Like
Right.
whether we voted for Kamala, voted red, blue, independent, at worst, it would just be another horrible presidency. Nobody, and the things that the Project 2025 outlined, those of us who understand the law and understands, the separation of powers, automatically thought, well, okay, this is like I told you earlier, this is fictional. Like, yeah, okay, it sounds crazy, but it's so many barriers that he's going to have to go through to get most of this shit done that is no need for us to stress about it because there's no way that our American government is going to let him do half the shit. And we're starting to see now that a lot of the Supreme Court is starting to issue a lot of orders to stop Trump from doing some of the things that he's trying to do. But it took him like a week, 2 weeks to leave us out here in this chaos. Anything could have went down in that time before these folks
But
finally.
it sounds like you're saying there was a for some there was a abundance of faith in our
That worst case
system of
scenario,
government
it
and
would just be a
democracy.
bad presidency and not just circus and mockery of an
Hold on. So
democracy
Kylie
that
Vibe
we're seeing
says,
now.
"Nah, I always knew it would be this, just not this fast. He's been steamrolling." I I feel you because when listen, what was what's the actress name? I'm so embarrassed that I can't think of her name from Empire. Uh
Cookie,
the
what
one
was
that
it?
played Cookie Lyons. Um,
That's sad. Why can't we think of her name?
Xander, chill out, buddy. Cookie Lyons. What was her name? But anyway, the actress that played Cookie Lyons when she was at the
Taraji P.
Taraji
Henson.
P. Henson.
That's
Yes,
how she.
Taraji. Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Keisha. So when she was at I believe it was at the Grammys, and it was this time last year, and she was like, "Project 2025 is not a game. It's not a joke." I don't think people took that seriously. I did because I've been paying. Listen, I've been watching the Republican Party and the evangelical right, inch by inch, little by little, do things to get us to this point. And it was really big when they tried to hinder Obama from appointing the Supreme Court justice. I think it was Gorsuch that was up for consideration, and they blocked it. They did the whole filibuster thing, all that kind of stuff. And I remember Democrats were saying they did not want to change the filibuster rules, and because Republicans made them, if they do it, we're gonna do it too. They better not, and they literally scared the Democrats into changing the rules. And as soon as they got power, they changed all the rules. Anything else you want like to add?
Insane. I feel like a lot of people were blindsided. For those who did possibly vote away from Kamala, of course, we can talk about the corruptions of the Democratic Party, all day as well, because there's a lot of corruption going on in general. But I feel sorry for those folks, especially I saw a report today about all the school teachers that voted for Trump. Expecting Trump to save them, and he cutting funding and making their jobs worse. And so it's just crazy how so many small folks who are on the ground, and common folk like who are just trying to get through the day, who are being affected negatively by
Right.
these decisions.
Absolutely. Mogul Cigar says Trump is doing everything he said he was going to do. And you damn Skippy. And that's the thing. Now, I tell you what. I tell you what. I tell you what. Like him or not, that damn Donald Trump, he makes it very abundantly clear that the president want to get some shit done, he can get some shit done. This man did stuff with and mind you, it may be a bluster, it may be showboating, it may be him just being, being crazy. We're calling it crazy, but his people see it as, well, he is really in there working. He is. I mean, he said he was going to do it on day one, and by golly, he's doing it. It's, she said, except get the price of eggs down. You're right. And he has not done that yet. And I don't think you're going to see him do it. I don't. And again, I don't want to be cynical to that extent, but I just don't think that. I really want to talk to folks that voted the other way, whether you voted for Trump, Jill Stein, whatever. Even with the Palestinian stuff, but people who voted the other way because they wanted to protect Palestine, or they was tired of seeing, the carnage. And again, I saw it too. I saw it. I was, man, what was that? It was a guy who, he had a channel on Instagram, and they took him off because it was just so vulgar. All the blown up bodies and stuff like that. And it was hard to see. And absolutely, it made you feel bad. But also, it was like, what's this? I don't like this. Oh, there we go. I was about to say, this is not how it's supposed to be. Hold on, y'all. I'm trying to fix my little thing.
You talking about Sean King?
Yeah. The shine was looking crazy. So, yeah, let me see if I can fix that. Y'all keep getting to my green screen. Yeah, my green screen. Yeah, my green screen. Y'all are in my green screen. Thank you. So, yeah, this is even worse. Y'all see this? I hate this. I hate this thing. The light is not, I don't like the light. It's not right. I feel like I pushed something and then it all changed and went a bad way. But all right, we're gonna deal with it. All right, so anyway, but yeah, so I just think, now you're too light. Glitter badge? What's the glitter badge? Every other president lied to us. They allowed the entire country to get played, wasting taxpayer money. Well, I mean, but when you say lie to us, no presidency has been perfect. A lot of presidents have made mistakes, but you can't make it seem like what Donald Trump is doing is equivalent to whatever the corruption or misgivings were about previous administrations. Like I'm having a hard time with that one. Come on, that's not the same. That's not the same, man. How are you making it the same? Walk me through it. How are you making that like it's par for the course? Absolutely not. It's not. Yeah, it's not par for the course. Who? Mogul Cigars. Who lied to us? Who lied to us? Tell me. And Donald Trump is about to bankrupt America. Absolutely. Like, you can't tell me that when you say yes, a lot of presidents have lied. Absolutely. No one's disputing that. Every other administration before Trump. Listen, that may be the case. But the thing about it is, though, is that they didn't try to usurp the government. They didn't try to destroy the Congress. They weren't trying to, destroy democracy as we know it. That has to matter, y'all. That has to matter. I used to see presidents as pawns. They make moves regarding whoever has the most money invested. So you said you used to see them that way. So how do you see them now? Crystallized. How do you see them now? What scared me with Trump is that I'm like, who is he working for? Yeah. Because it seems to me that Elon Musk is, I don't want to say he has something on Trump. I'm not trying to create a conspiracy here. But this is very unusual. What how does it benefit Donald Trump to give Elon Musk so much power? When Steve Bannon was on the cover of Time magazine, I don't know if y'all remember this, back in 2017, I believe it was, Steve Bannon made the cover of Time magazine as being the brains behind the White House. And you saw Donald Trump distance himself from Steve Bannon from that point forward. Elon Musk is on the cover of Time magazine, sitting behind the Resolute desk, as if he's Donald Trump, as if he's the president. And Donald Trump was questioned about it today, or yesterday. And don't bother me. You know, it's just the media doing what the media does. Huh? Now, again, I didn't vote for Trump. But one thing I appreciated about Trump is that Trump was not somebody that you could push over, it seemed. That's at least the impression I got. That he was somebody that was not going to be dicked around and not made to look like a child or a fool. He sunned every other body that had something to say, but he talked about people's wives. He called them ugly. He called people fat. He said people had low IQs. He eviscerated folks that dared to cross him. But when it comes to Elon Musk, what they got going on? Why Musk not trying this in South Africa? Because he can't. Good question. I have an inner Trump in me. Listen, Trump is a game player. He is a game player. He's made a lot of promises. He's also going to line up before this term. Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I want to know. I want to know who he's working for. I want to know what the end game is supposed to be. Because at the end of the day, two things are gonna happen, y'all. And this is my belief. This is my belief, and I'm gonna let y'all go in a few minutes. I want to try to keep these things to an hour, if the best I can. But we're gonna be coming on. Oh my God! I touched another button. What button did I just push? Oh, this is annoying. You know what? You should millennials. Can y'all? We need to get a. See, I'm a senior millennial. Born in 1985, so I'm up to date on technology. But these TikToks and these things with all the gaming looking apps with all the stars and the diamonds and the things and the things and the things and the woo woo woo, it's so much. It's so much in your face all at once. I don't like it, but this is where the people are. So here I am. But yes. So anyway, you touch the screen and the next thing you know, you got your face off, honey. But I'll figure it out. But all in all, we have to make sure that we have to be very cognizant of the fact that this has nothing to do with our petty activism. I'm not saying that activism is petty. That's a wrong phrase. Not petty. Activism does not win elections. That's the point. Activism is not petty. Don't go say, oh, he said activism was petty. No, what I'm saying is, in the grand scheme of things, the bigger picture, I do believe that activism for causes that don't impact Americans, even the Palestinian thing, that's what I was going. Yes, those children were being destroyed. I saw children's heads being blown off. I seen all that, right? I witnessed all that. I witnessed all those things. I saw it on my Instagram feed. But I think his name was something King, Sean King. I think it was Sean King. Sean King on Instagram, his feed was full of that. And I can understand why people would say, "Oh my God, they're killing babies," and I'm going to vote for Jill Stein to send a point. But you have to understand also that Project 2025 makes it so that Palestinians get wiped out and never exist. So what's more important to you? Making a point? Because this is your issue and the hill that you want to die on, because you have access to all the information that even allows you to see what's going on over there, and because your life is in a way that you have the space and the capacity to be aggrieved by such atrocities. Xander, stop. Is that the case? Or like, was that worth it? And maybe you do feel like it was worth it. Maybe you do. And that's fine. But activism doesn't win elections. Activism does not win elections. Organizing, strategizing, messaging, relatability, authenticity wins elections. And when you forget that, you find yourself here. Because they did it. Donald Trump did it. Whether we like it or not, he did it. I watched him on Joe Rogan. He was on Joe Rogan for 3 hours. Now, I was going to be damned if I watched all 3 hours. But I watched it for a good hour. Him on Joe Rogan. And he told me stuff about the White House that I never knew. He was like, when I first he asked him, when you first got in there, what were you thinking? It was your first day. He was like, oh, I had to appoint over 250 people. They wanted me to pick all these people. I didn't know who to pick. Da, da, da. And he was like, and he was basically walking you through a day in the life of the first day in office and what happens behind the scenes. No president has ever done that. Have ever really explained that process. He talked about how they had to pick out all these decorations and change over. And it brought you into the scene. And you were like, oh, I didn't know that. He's a good communicator. I found myself almost liking him. And like, I'm a person who likes to learn from old people. But I feel like they know things. They can give you a lot of wisdom, stuff like that. I'm not saying I want to gain any wisdom from Donald Trump. But the point is, I like to hear stories. I like to hear people's stories. I like to understand people's experiences. This man is somebody I would definitely listen to if he was telling his story on a podcast. I want to know how he became the maniacal villain he is. There's some psychology behind that shit. Well, how did you do that? How you grew? What was your mama like? How was your daddy? Okay. And what happened now? Oh, okay. I won't understand. Because this guy is literally able to come into these United States after being a TV personality who was already publicly known for bankrupting businesses and committing all kinds of crimes and inappropriate behavior, and was able to still communicate with the American people in such a way that they looked past all of that and voted him into the White House in probably 2025. Meh. So, if we want to make a change, if Democrats have any chance, if progressives have any chance of turning this around in 2 years during the midterms, we're going to have to learn how to speak the language of the majority of the country. You can affirm diversity, you can affirm equity, you can affirm inclusion, you can affirm LGBTQ rights, you can affirm trans rights, you can affirm all the things, and also give people a chance to get on board, to understand, to learn, to be exposed, to be educated about, and also counterpunch. When they're telling you that that's what that's all Dems care about, it's not bad to come back and say, no, baby, that's not all we care about. All I'm saying is, if this person says that their pronouns are they, them, and you don't want to buy into that, just say, well, baby, what's your name? Well, my name is Sky. Okay, well, can I call you Sky? All right, cool, I'm going to call you Sky. And that's it. That's it. That's it. If Democrats told the people in Appalachia That everybody who wouldn't get on board with that? That's not downing anybody. That's saying, you know what? I don't know what all that is, but no one can say no to their name. You understand? I'm gonna call you your name. Democrats can say that, but instead they're listening to they're listening to special interest groups who say you must pass this purity test, and if you don't recite it the way we say recite it, we're going to cancel you and label you the most worst thing in the world, call you some type of phobic, some type of whatever. And so instead of just being regular, we start speaking in these extremes that most Americans couldn't understand. All right. I gotta go. It's 11:04. Thank you guys for listening. I will be back probably on Monday. Check this feed for updates about news. On tomorrow, I'll be sending out updates on the news and things like that. But we'll be back on Monday for the live. Share this. I'm going to post some highlights from this and from last night's live. Those of you that weren't able to join, I'll show some highlights from there. We had a good conversation with some MAGA folk. And listen, this is dare I say, this is a safe space for all the folk. Okay? I may not agree with you. Matter of fact, I probably won't on a lot of things. But there's shit that we can talk about that we do agree with. And it's all about trying to connect and understand each other. That's what this space is for. Trying to understand each other and try to make that connection. We're not going to down nobody and clown nobody over here. Everybody made the choices they made. We're past that now. Now we're all living with it, whether we want to or not. So we need to figure out how to best do that. And I do believe that whether you voted for Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Jill Stein, I believe that amongst those voters, there are true patriots. And the true patriots will not allow this country to become a dictatorship or a corporate monarchy. The true patriots will stand up. We will resist. And the only way we're going to do that is if we talk to one another. All right? Thanks for watching. Y'all have a good night.